Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
The auditory experience of sound that lacks musical quality. Sound that is a disagreeable auditory experience. Modern music is just noise to me. Electrical or acoustic activity that can disturb communication. The quality of lacking any predictable order or plan. Emit a noise. A loud outcry of protest or complaint. The announcement of the election recount caused a lot of noise. Incomprehensibility resulting from irrelevant information or meaningless facts or remarks. All the noise in his speech concealed the fact that he didn't have anything to say. Sound of any kind, especially unintelligible or dissonant sound. He enjoyed the street noises. The auditory experience of sound that lacks musical quality. Sound that is a disagreeable auditory experience. A conflict of people's opinions or actions or characters. Disagreeable sounds. Celebrate noisily, often indulging in drinking. Engage in uproarious festivities. The auditory experience of sound that lacks musical quality. Sound that is a disagreeable auditory experience. A sports implement, usually consisting of a handle and an oval frame with a tightly interlaced network of strings, used to strike a ball, or shuttlecock, in various games. An illegal enterprise, such as extortion or fraud or drug peddling or prostitution, carried on for profit. A loud and disturbing noise. Hit a ball with a racket. Make loud and annoying noises. A noisy fight. A disorderly outburst or tumult. They were amazed by the furious disturbance they had caused. Electrical or acoustic activity that can disturb communication. Psychiatry. A psychological disorder of thought or emotion. A more neutral term than mental illness. Activity that is a malfunction, intrusion, or interruption. He looked around for the source of the disturbance. An unhappy and worried mental state. There was too much anger and disturbance. The act of disturbing something or someone. Setting something in motion. The act of hindering or obstructing or impeding. Electrical or acoustic activity that can disturb communication. A policy of intervening in the affairs of other countries. Any obstruction that impedes or is burdensome. American football. Blocking a player's path with your body. He ran interference for the quarterback. The quality of lacking any predictable order or plan. The quality of lacking any predictable order or plan. Thermodynamics. A thermodynamic quantity representing the amount of energy in a system that is no longer available for doing mechanical work. The quality of lacking any predictable order or plan. Emit a noise. Ring or echo with sound. The hall resounded with laughter. Emit a noise. Phonetics. An individual sound unit of speech without concern as to whether or not it is a phoneme of some language. Logically valid. A sound argument. Measure the depth of a body of water with a sounding line. The subjective sensation of hearing something. He strained to hear the faint sounds. Make a certain noise or sound. Having legal efficacy or force. A sound title to the property. In excellent physical condition. A sound mind in a sound body. The audible part of a transmitted signal. Of sleep, deep and complete. A sound sleeper. A narrow channel of the sea joining two larger bodies of water. Exercising or showing good judgment. A sound approach to the problem. Utter with vibrating vocal cords. A large ocean inlet or deep bay. The main body of the sound ran parallel to the coast. Announce by means of a sound. Sound the alarm. Appear in a certain way. This sounds interesting. Cause to sound. Sound the bell. Complete. Thorough. Politicians have no sound grasp of technology issues. Financially secure and safe. Sound investments. Free from moral defect. A man of sound character. Give off a certain sound or sounds. This record sounds scratchy. In good condition, free from defect or damage or decay. A sound timbre. Mechanical vibrations transmitted by an elastic medium. Falling trees make a sound in the forest even when no one is there to hear them. The particular auditory effect produced by a given cause. The sound of rain on the roof. The sudden occurrence of an audible event. The sound awakened them. Vigorous or severe. A sound thrashing. The subjective sensation of hearing something. A source of difficulty. One trouble after another delayed the job. Cause bodily suffering to and make sick or indisposed. Disturb in mind or make uneasy or cause to be worried or alarmed. Move deeply. Take the trouble to do something, concern oneself. He did not trouble to call his mother on her birthday. To cause inconvenience or discomfort to. Sorry to trouble you, but. An effort that is inconvenient. I went to a lot of trouble. A strong feeling of anxiety. He wanted to die and end his troubles. An angry disturbance. They had labor trouble. An event causing distress or pain. What is the trouble? An unwanted pregnancy. He got several girls in trouble. Not characterized by a fixed principle or rate, at irregular intervals. An irregular asymmetry in shape, an irregular spatial pattern. Not characterized by a fixed principle or rate, at irregular intervals. Irregular and infrequent or difficult evacuation of the bowels, can be a symptom of intestinal obstruction or diverticulitis. Behavior that breaches the rule or etiquette or custom or morality. Follow a certain course. How did your interview go? Have a particular form. As the saying goes. Move away from a place into another direction. Perform as expected when applied. The washing machine won't go unless it's plugged in. Change location. Move, travel, or proceed, also metaphorically. How fast does your new car go? Be in the right place or situation. Let's put healthcare where it belongs, under the control of the government. A usually brief attempt. A board game for two players who place counters on a grid. The object is to surround and so capture the opponent's counters. Pass from physical life and lose all bodily attributes and functions necessary to sustain life. Make a certain noise or sound. Lead, extend, or afford access. This door goes to the basement. Street names for methylenedioxymethamphetamine. Continue to live and avoid dying. Begin or set in motion. Ready, set, go. Stop operating or functioning. To be spent or finished. The money had gone after a few days. A time period for working, after which you will be relieved by someone else. It's my go. Blend or harmonize. This sofa won't go with the chairs. Go through in search of something. Search through someone's belongings in an unauthorized way. Enter or assume a certain state or condition. Get going. Have a turn. Make one's move in a game. Can I go now? Give support to, or make a choice of, one out of a group or number. Stretch out over a distance, space, time, or scope. Run or extend between 2 points or beyond a certain point. His knowledge doesn't go very far. Follow a procedure or take a course. We should go farther in this matter. Be the right size or shape. Fit correctly or as desired. Progress by being changed. The speech has to go through several more drafts. Be abolished or discarded. These ugly billboards have to go. Be or continue to be in a certain condition. Be ranked or compare. This violinist is as good as Juilliard-trained violinists go. Be spent. Functioning correctly and ready for action. All systems are go. Pass, fair, or elapse, of a certain state of affairs or action. How is it going? Utter a sudden loud cry. I yelled to her from the window but she couldn't hear me. Utter or declare in a very loud voice. You don't have to yell. I can hear you just fine. A loud utterance of emotion, especially when inarticulate. A yell of pain. A loud utterance, often in protest or opposition. Assign a specified, usually proper name to. Make a prediction about. Tell in advance. Order, request, or command to come. She was called into the director's office. Utter a sudden loud cry. Pay a brief visit. The mayor likes to call on some of the prominent citizens. The option to buy a given stock, or stock index or commodity future, at a given price before a given date. A demand by a broker that a customer deposit enough to bring his margin up to the minimum requirement. A demand especially in the phrase. The call of duty. A telephone connection. She reported several anonymous calls. A loud utterance, often in protest or opposition. Greet, as with a prescribed form, title, or name. She calls him by first name. Demand payment of a loan. Give the calls to the dancers for a square dance. Get or try to get into communication with someone by telephone. I tried to call you all night. The characteristic sound produced by a bird. Make a demand, as for a card or a suit or a show of hands. He called his trump. A brief social visit. Senior professors' wives no longer make afternoon calls on newcomers. A demand for a show of hands in a card game. After 2 raises there was a call. An instruction that interrupts the program being executed. Pascal performs calls by simply giving the name of the routine to be executed. A request. Many calls for Christmas stories. Ascribe a quality to or give a name of a common noun that reflects a quality. He called me a bastard. A special disposition, as if from a divine source, to pursue a particular course. A visit in an official or professional capacity. The pastor's calls on his parishioners. Call a meeting. Invite or command to meet. The 1C conference was called to discuss the final solution. Challenge. Somebody, to make good on a statement. Charge with or censure for an offense. He deserves to be called on that. Challenge the sincerity or truthfulness of. Call the speaker on a question of fact. Consider or regard as being. I would not call her beautiful. Declare in the capacity of an umpire or referee. Call a runner out. Indicate a decision in regard to. Call balls and strikes behind the plate. Lure by imitating the characteristic call of an animal. Make a stop in a harbor. The ship will call in Honolulu tomorrow. Order or request or give a command for. The unions called a general strike for Sunday. Order, summon, or request for a specific duty or activity, work, role. He was already called 4 times for jury duty. Read aloud to check for omissions or absentees. Require the presentation of for redemption before maturation. Rouse somebody from sleep with a call. I was called at 5 a.m. this morning. Send a message or attempt to reach someone by radio, phone, etc. Make a signal to in order to transmit a message. Hawaii is calling. Sports. The decision made by an umpire or referee. He was ejected for protesting the call. Stop or postpone because of adverse conditions, such as bad weather. Call a football game. Utter a characteristic note or cry. Blue jays called to one another. Utter in a loud voice or announce. He called my name. Utter aloud, often with surprise, horror, or joy. Shout louder than. A loud utterance, often in protest or opposition. Utter a sudden loud cry. Utter aloud, often with surprise, horror, or joy. Shed tears because of sadness, rage, or pain. A slogan used to rally support for a cause. A cry to arms. A loud utterance of emotion, especially when inarticulate. A cry of rage. A loud utterance, often in protest or opposition. Proclaim or announce in public. Before we had newspapers, a town crier would cry the news. A fit of weeping. had a good cry. Bring into a particular state by crying. Demand immediate action. This situation is crying for attention. The characteristic utterance of an animal. Utter a characteristic sound. The cat was crying. A loud utterance, often in protest or opposition. Utter a sudden loud cry. Utter aloud, often with surprise, horror, or joy. I'm here, the mother shouted when she saw her child looking lost. Use foul or abusive language towards. The angry mother shouted at the teacher. A loud utterance, often in protest or opposition. Utter in a loud voice. Talk in a loud voice, usually denoting characteristic manner of speaking. My grandmother is hard of hearing, you'll have to shout. The quality of being incomprehensible. The presence of an unwanted signal via an accidental coupling. Fill a space in a disorderly way. A confused multitude of things. Unwanted echoes that interfere with the observation of signals on a radar screen. Extraneous signals that can be confused with the phenomenon to be observed or measured. They got a bad connection and could hardly hear one another over the background signals. A small irregular movement. Small rapid variations in a waveform resulting from fluctuations in the voltage supply or mechanical vibrations or other sources. A slow or gradual disappearance. A gradual temporary loss of a transmitted signal due to electrical disturbances. A noise produced by a stimulus containing all of the audible frequencies of vibration. White noise is a good masking agent. A crackling or hissing noise caused by electrical interference. The presence of an unwanted signal via an accidental coupling.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.